Hey guys, thanks for joining us for another episode of the Political Matrix News. My partner Greg Fink and I, spent 30 years in politics, and we're going to give you our perspective on today's top story.
Top stories or middle stories?
That sounds kind of douchey, kind of like newsy kind of deal, but
It kind of sounds newsy. It's almost like Stephen Colbert, but he's about to be canceled. Ha ha ha, Stephen.
yeah, it just goes to show you that saying it's just a joke doesn't always work. When you alienate literally half of your potential audience. I used to enjoy listening to Stephen Colbert until he became this one-trick pony that just likes to tell you about how much Bush or Republicans suck. How much
Exactly.
Trump's awful. Oh my God! And let me tell you in a funny way how he's awful. Well, you can only make that joke so many times.
Yeah,
It's the same joke. You're just telling it in different ways over and over again. And after a while,
exactly.
it's just not funny. Well,
So I
Steve,
get, yeah, he got a
go
10-month,
ahead.
he got a 10-month window here. He's going to be canceled here on May 2026. And so it was probably part of this whole CBS lawsuit that Trump was actually after CBS on all the issues and everything else. And they've already had the news people quit and another news chief quit because they were being tired of corporate and legal telling them that they had to do it a certain way, like the ethical way. They're like, well, we're journalists. So we're journalists. I mean, I don't think people realize the news age of journalism is over. And I mean, this whole journalism nowadays is pontifications and exaggerations and lies.
They think they're journalists because they've never seen real journalists during a time when these issues were happening.
Right.
All they get to see is all the outrageous journalism that had, that ultimately had something to do with a significant, with a way that an event actually played out. But
You're,
the day-to-day grind, no.
I mean, I'm a journalist. I spent a degree in journalism, and I spent 15 years at a liberal African American newspaper where we talked about nothing but the facts. People thought the paper was turning right wing all of a sudden because we were not exaggerating or embellishing like like the left wing likes to do as far as the media goes. But I mean, the whole idea here is that you're not supposed to tell anybody's context in the journalism field. You're not supposed to see if they're for or pro anybody. They're supposed to be objective. That's out the window.
No, it went out the window a long time ago. And I was from, Trump is sitting there talking about, we'll make a statement, and everyone piles on about, oh, well, it's this or that, or it's, that they're so desperate to have that final gotcha moment where they can win against Trump that they'll take for so long. They've, had egg on their face. They don't even acknowledge the fact that this stuff is blown up in their face repeatedly, over and over and over again. They fly these talking points out. They get debunked. Then they bring them back up, as if, oh, well, you guys just weren't paying attention because this is what really happened. No, it's not. And
Right.
It's happened so many times that now it's like this Bongino thing. What you have with the Bongino thing is you have three strong personalities that are in conflict.
Well, tell us about that, because a lot of people might not know. Tell us about the situation, because I don't really know fully exactly what's going on.
Well, honestly, I think the problem is it's impossible to know what's going on.
That's
because
the point.
There's not a single news agency that's willing to give it a fair shake. Knowing AG Bondi and knowing what I know about AG Bondi, I'd be very surprised if she was even remotely tolerant of something that had to do with a sexual predator or covering for a sexual predator. And I hate that Bongino doesn't, is angry with her for whatever reason. I'm sure he feels like she's not living up to the commitment that he believed that she had. But at the same time, I don't know. So it's hard to say. I mean, what's happening? What you can go on for sure knowing is it's not as bad as the media is making it out to be, because again, they've been so desperate for so long, they're not going to give an accurate portrayal of anything. So I don't know what's going on. Okay. Well, there we go. You turn it one way, it's an interesting little microphone. It's got its little controls on it.
Yeah, we call it Yeti, right?
Yeah, it's a Yeti, whatever. So
Yeah, it's one of the premier podcast microphones for the Yeti market.
yeah, well, I got this thing before it was cool.
Yeah, I had a Yeti mic, but it fell out of the truck when we were moving, so it kind of like
Yeah.
shattered a little bit. And so, you and I both had Yeti before Yeti was cool. And so, my Yeti was like 10 years old. And
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
I was
I got
using it
that when
for recording my banjo.
yeah, I got this one when we worked for Gene.
Yes, exactly.
It's been a long time.
Long time ago. So yeah, back to Dan Bongino. He is, I guess, upset with Pam Bondi for not releasing what he thinks is all the details of the Epstein files, like the list, which I guess the list does not exist now or something.
Well, here's my heartburn about that characterization, because you haven't heard from Dan Bongino's mouth, and frankly, even if I hear it from Dan Bongino,
Exactly.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I have nothing but respect for him, and I'm not questioning his integrity, but it may be a point of view kind of thing, because when you go back into old stuff, they didn't really have, they only started talking about client lists. They kind of evolved into it. They started talking about clients, and then a list of clients, and then and then it became a client list. And, which is different, because in the first two examples, the, the, Justice Department is, coming up with a list. And in the last example, Epstein came up with had a list, and I don't know. I mean, I didn't think people still did that. I mean, the old black book kind of went out in the early '80s or '90s. So I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think most of these visits were happening during the 90s and early 2000s. I don't think a lot of these visits were happening anything later.
Guess
It's not
maybe,
even
but
during
I
the Bill
mean,
Clinton years and the Reagan years and all that kind of stuff.
do you really think? I mean, I guess criminals are stupid, so you never really know what they would do. But I'm a little
Yeah.
skeptical that someone would compile a list of their criminal activities.
Having known people in that industry, they do,
Okay.
which is weird. And I
Well,
always told them, I always ask them, I says, what's wrong with you people?
Well, I think to be in that kind of business requires a certain level of arrogance. That you can.
It does.
I know people get caught for this, but I'm connected. I got too many things. It's not going to happen. So who knows? Who knows? But the other thing is, the other side of that is, and I'm kind of in the Charlie Kirk bandwagon on this, to say that Joe Biden was in charge of the FBI for a long time.
He was.
And 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 his FBI was in physical possession of all of this evidence. In fact, his buddy James Comey's daughter was the one kind of guarding all of it.
Exactly. And the SDNY, which is a Southern District of New York for those who don't know.
Yeah. So does he? That really is a thing that gives me the most pause.
Yeah.
Because if Donald Trump were mentioned in there in a very incriminating way, he would have redacted everything around it until it just said Donald Trump and released it the minute someone brought it to his attention.
And he would have actually.
I'm sorry. He would have leaked it.
Correct. And that actually probably would have been one of the other charges that were brought by the Biden administration against Trump that were not brought against Trump, because the Biden people had all the information. Their FBI had it, their NSA had it, their 51 agents of intel agents who all said that there's a Russian hoax and everything else. They all had it. But if there was anything there, there's nothing there. So, I mean,
the absolute most credible thing that I've heard that would explain both Biden not releasing it and Trump kind of starting to hedge about it is, there's a story that suggests, or it seems to document that Epstein or his father was involved with the Israeli Mossad.
Right. And they were also CIA as well.
Well, I haven't heard that one, but I mean, I'm not
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
say it's not there. I mean, frankly, if they're working with the Mossad, they would almost have to be working with the CIA
Right.
to not get in trouble for working with Mossad. Um, and it's not impossible that all of this, all of a sudden, kind of hedging of statements, maybe because of that. I will say that is the thing that makes the most sense, because that would explain why why Biden would keep it a secret and why Trump would keep it a secret, even though
Right.
these people, it's in these guys' interest to completely burn him. The only thing I can expect is that's what it is.
I mean, have you ever seen the TV show The Blacklist? Remember when that was really
Oh yeah,
big? And people are, I mean, they're like overly expressing how a lot of spies really are criminals and spies all at the same time. And that is actually a normal occurrence, because that is how you get information about our enemies and everything else to keep everything safe. And there is a possibility that Epstein could have been in that type of position where, yeah, he had a criminal side as well, but he's also getting information for America that's very important to keep
you
everything
got to
safe.
understand the real dangerous thing about clandestine services is that it is literally their job to go into other countries and break the law. I mean,
Exactly.
everything that they do in these countries is breaking the law. So there is a culture of breaking the laws for justified reasons.
Air
And the
America.
problem is that some people that are a little malleable about what that justification is.
Right. Air America did
So
that as well. I mean, they did a lot of drug trafficking and drug trade. And my father was a very big part of Air America. And whenever he wrote he told me, this is declassified now, but he told me his first report he wrote about the drugs that were on the airplane. And his boss looked over his shoulder and was like, tear that report apart. We do not talk about the drugs. We only talk about how wonderful it is and everything is going perfect. That's it. We don't talk about anything that's actually happening in the reports. We just say it's good, period. And you talk about the drug trafficking, you talk about the gun trafficking or anything like that, you're going to end up in a hole. My dad learned that his very first day, and
mhm.
he was actually over there for 2.5 years doing all that. So he is pretty intense.
Yeah, so like I said, that when clandestine services get involved, that's when you really start losing it. I mean, people cover things up by saying national security, and they can and they'll, before they've
That's
ever
true.
gotten caught, they have positioned and spun this story so that when they get caught, because they assume they will eventually get caught,
Yeah.
that when they get caught, they can tell the story in such a way that, oh no, this is a national security thing. We had to do this.
I mean, because the other reality is Bill Clinton is also on the list as well. So, I mean, as much as they want to go after Trump, they got Bill Clinton, they got lots of Democrats, actually more Democrats. And in fact, the time whenever Trump was there, he was a Democrat. And so this is the Democrat Trump, who before he found God and before he found the right wing and before he found trutherism and everything else and all the other isms he's been a part of ever since. But this is the old Donald Trump, the old guy with a
Well,
but also even if it's true, that's my whole point is that is Epstein was a friend of the Democrat Party and the Democrat apparatus, and so they're trying to spin this whole thing about it's about Trump. I mean, if you want to go after that, you got to go after at least 80 or 90 other Democrats, a lot of them who are still elected and in office, and so that also is another reason why I don't think the people who write the checks, the who control the purse in Congress, did not want this out.
no, and honestly, I think you know, I will say another thing that makes sense would be, people within Congress flat out telling him, said, look, we will fall on a sword to stall your agenda, to kill whatever thing that you've got. We can either do this in a way that's going to make it so that you guys can pass your agenda over our strenuous objections, or you can prosecute this guy that's already dead.
Exactly.
And you know, so that's something I could also see. So I guess there's a couple of scenarios that could play out. It just has the same feel of all the other crap that the Democrats and the media, frankly, spin up with just rapid desperation of, oh my God, he's they're just breathless about the fact that he's, oh my God, we've got him now, everyone get into it.
But you notice it's the new media, it's the young guys who are doing it. The old guys in the media who probably know who they are and who knows on the list, they're not saying damn it.
Those old guys in the media may be some of the guys in those videos.
Yeah, they're not saying nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got like the David Brokaws and the Ted Koppels and those guys who are still alive, and Britt
For
Hume and
sure.
all those guys are like, we're staying away from this
Yeah.
because they know who's on that list. They know the people who hung out. They were the the reporters back in the 80s and 90s. They were the paparazzi, I guess, at the time, and so they know exactly what the deal is and the dealio, I guess. And these new guys who just want nothing but to go after Trump any reason.
Well, they're desperate to make their mark in the world, is what it really boils
15 minutes
down
of
to.
fame,
They
yeah.
think they've got it. They think they've got it. They could be a hero. But I mean, most, and to be fair, most political, really active political people have a little bit of a hero complex. They want to get in there and be the guy, that shows, that we've saved this. I'm telling you, this is a bad thing, and they're wasting
Right.
your money, and they're marginalizing your rights, and whatever. I mean, they're doing that to be the hero, and
Yeah.
it marginalizes their judgment.
Yeah. I mean, I go one step further and say it's almost impossible to be a political person and not be a narcissist,
Well,
because I
well,
mean,
it depends on how deep you are into it, but yeah.
exactly. I mean, because the whole idea is that you're the only one with the solutions, and basically you're only running. The only reason you run is because you think everybody else is wrong. You're the only one that can deliver the problem. That is the only reason anybody really ever runs for office, is because they think that they're the person, they're the individual chosen by the people to to deliver the solution to their community and to the world.
Yeah, and there's often a component of needing validation and stuff like
Exactly,
that.
needing
And
validation.
so, yeah, I mean, after you see, the most complicated record in the world, after you see it enough times, you kind of like, okay, I know how this ends.
Well,
I've seen it before.
you know who needs validation right now? The Ninth Court of Appeals.
Oh my God.
Talk
Uh,
about flipping pro-choice upside down, and with a
you know,
birthright
and
citizenship, which had nothing to do with abortion whatsoever before it started, which now it does.
I don't know how this is going to go. This is
Hypocrisy.
mostly a lot of breathless, excitement by, various influencers and
Right.
talking heads and stuff like that. So maybe I haven't heard an actual, credible lawyer that I know, come out on this. But it is interesting that in this second nationwide injunction that the courts have applied to Donald Trump's trial to get him to end birthright citizenship, that in that order they put out that the order covers all living adults, all children, and all
Future.
unborn children.
Because they have
So
rights.
they all have rights. And the problem is, the funny thing about this is, that they're so desperate to just oppose and try to, cut the legs out from under Trump. They're not thinking, because by saying that fetuses have rights, that means that fetuses are people. When the fetuses are people and have rights, then aborting them, ain't that kind of
Yeah,
murder?
murder. Yeah, they just basically threw the entire Roe v. Wade, pro-choice, left-wing, Planned Parenthood, blah 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 blah, totally out the window, and just trampled it with a horse. And this is a liberal court, by the way,
That's the
which
best.
is
Well,
it's not a
I
Florida
will
or
say this,
Georgia court or Texas.
right? Well, that's because they've only filed the case in a place where they think that they're going to get the result that they're looking for, and the liberal court's the ones giving them that. They see that's the bad thing the thing that really makes uh, national injunctions a bad thing, because
right.
it really encourages uh, jurisdiction shopping.
I mean, the whole idea here, I mean, the Supreme Court already laid it out, and I guess these Georgians can't read or something. I don't know. They're just illiterate or something. But the whole idea here is that the courts only work with the jurisdiction that they're in. And
Right,
that's the way
here's
it
the way that they
is.
circumvented it, because he did kind of listen to the Supreme Court. Or actually, I think it's a she, but regardless, the judge kind of listened to the Supreme Court, because what the Supreme Court said, that you could, in these individual cases, you can't you can't make a nationwide injunction for people who are not part of that case.
Right.
So what the judge did was, she certified it as a class action. And that is the operative thing that's supposed to let her do that. But by certifying it as a class action, that's what made these rights extend into the fetus.
Yeah,
And
because
she explicitly wrote that people born and unborn. So she's the one that brought it in.
hmm. So basically, the people who are not part of the situation because they're not born yet are part of the situation because they're not born yet. Wow.
The judge said,
Well, with that kind of logic, no wonder they have a lot of fires in California. I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean, it's ridiculous on how they're not even, I guess, I
"Yeah,
don't know how
no,
they operate that whole state. It's a mess.
it is beyond me."
I mean, you go all the way back to that guy needing was it $3 million of permits just to fucking tear apart a house that was already burned down. I mean, whatever have you,
Adam Carolla has a great segment on that whole Pacific Palisades and Malibu and stuff like that, because he went there right after the fire, because I think he
you live
either
there.
lived in the area or currently owns property in the area. And he just took a little drone out there, and then he went for a drive himself, and he predicted at the time, "I'm going to come back in 6 months and not a damn thing's going to be done." And he is absolutely right. The person in charge of issuing these Pacific Coast permits before the fire made it well known that she didn't want anyone living there. So
Yep.
she's not going to give them permits if she does. She's going to make them work for every inch of a permit that they get, in order to do anything. And I mean, the closest thing they have to anything being done is they have most of the garbage that was already burned, for the structures that were already burned. They have the garbage hauled off, but they can't take down the structure.
And that's kind of the frustrating part is that the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals is in California. They should be dealing issues with that, not issues like this birthright. I mean, this whole it's just mind boggling how they do not have any focus on the real issue at hand, which are people are homeless. Their houses were burned. And the state of California, through the court system, through the enforcement system, through the any system whatsoever, is all broken.
Well, you can assure yourself of one thing: there's one problem that California is not going to do anything about, and that's homeless people. Whether they're rich homeless people or poor homeless people, we don't care.
They don't. I guess they don't want anybody back there. So who's going to pay the taxes?
No, they still owe for the taxes. And I would virtually guarantee you that other than a few very, very savvy people, they're all being compelled to pay the full freight.
Well, I know a lot of the Californians are flocking to Texas and Florida. And I guess right now in New York, a lot of the New Yorkers, because of New York City at least, because of a wonderful new mayor, possibly with the Democrat Party, Mandani, whatever his name is, they're leaving there in droves, and they're coming to Florida as well.
You're talking about Mandami or
And Mamdani, the
Mamdani,
communist,
Mamdani.
Mamdani. That's a cool name, though. Mamdani.
It's an interesting name, but it's just, but clearly the guy will say whatever he has to get elected. He is clearly a person that just does, that just says what people want to hear,
But I think
because his beliefs are clearly deep in the Islamic faith, and he's just hopping on whatever bandwagon he can.
the incumbent might actually win it as the first independent mayor in the history of New York.
Well, there are certainly enough Democrats coming forward to barbecue him, and frankly, I think I really kind of could kick myself for not going over and visiting the Republican Party in New York City when I was there, because I drove right by their party headquarters.
Oh, really?
Yep, there's a lot of security there. Interestingly,
Well, the
I
mayor.
believe that they will make a deal with the. I don't think they'll make a public deal, because that'll actually hurt Eric Adams. But I think internally they will encourage their people to vote for Eric Adams.
Yeah, I think Eric Adams has a good shot here at actually pulling this thing out. He had his issues before and everything, and he's actually had to work with the Trump people as well, and him being differential to them really hurt him with the Democrat Party a lot. However, this whole idea here, they want to get behind the guy who, I don't know how he ran, because we're not in New York. I don't know if he ran as a socialist or if he became one after he got elected.
Oh, no. I don't know that he's elected. I think he's
I
elected
mean,
to a
a
minor
primary.
office.
He elected after
Oh,
the
the
primary.
primary.
Sorry.
Yeah, no. He has a long history of anti-Semitic things, of saying that he wants the city to, because it's hard to get the groceries are too expensive in the city, so he wants the city to start up the city-owned grocery store,
Really? Oh,
which is
I noticed that. Yeah.
hilarious. It really shows just how little they understand about how commerce works.
Yeah, they have this whole idea here, a lot of a government controlled private enterprise, which,
Absolutely. And anyone, if you want to see how well the city is at running businesses, just go take a ride on the New York subway.
right. Or the DMV.
Well, I mean, the DMV, you have to actually interact with them to really understand, and that's kind of a difficult thing to do.
So the subway
But the
system bad
subway,
there?
the subway costs $2 to get your heart broken.
Really? I have never been, I've never been to New York. So, I mean, is the subway system that bad?
Well, I mean, for one
And
of America's preeminent cities, the subway there doesn't look a whole lot different than it did in the 70s.
so it's not like the movies?
I haven't seen it. Well, no, it is exactly like the movies, but they do clean it up a lot in the movie. That they some special angles and stuff like that to not let you really understand just how crappy it is. And boy, I hate to invoke Europe, but man, you can go to just about any European city that has a subway or a train station, and they got a lot
Clean.
of high tech things going on.
Yeah, they're very clean.
Except in New York, in one of America's preeminent cities. And it's because
And
they cannot get out of their own way.
I hear Chicago's subway is not much cleaner.
I imagine not, but
They have an elevated train, I guess. So,
I got the L, this is, my criticism isn't even the cleanliness. I mean, there's a cleanliness problem, but that ain't even my objection. My
okay.
objection is they haven't done a damn thing to advance that system in decades, because every time they do it, it's always like a ripoff. It's like Joe Biden's little high-speed internet for rural areas. That
Right.
pledged billions of dollars to do it, but as far as I know, they haven't connected a single house after spending probably a third of that money.
Yeah, well, the whole high speed rail thing here in Florida, that was cute. Several $billion for,
The
I mean,
sad thing is,
$3 million a mile or
the way,
something.
as spread out as we are, you would think that we'd be a pretty good candidates for high speed rail.
It should be.
But we should be, but the problem is that they don't really develop an interested group of people, like and by that, like a market for it. They don't develop an interested market. They just predict that people would be interested in it. But for high speed rail to take hold in America, there's going to have to be a lot of kind of conditioning the public to think, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's do that, because I would definitely use that.
Because we used to have Amtrak.
Yes, other people would definitely use that, which is normally how they sell it.
Right. I mean, we used to have an Amtrak that actually ran from Pensacola all the way to Jacksonville, and it does not anymore. You basically had to pick it up in Jacksonville. You had that whole 300-mile break of Amtrak. And so, but I mean, it goes from Jacksonville all the way down to Miami, but the high-speed rail, I think, just goes from Orlando to Tampa.
Well, no, we don't have it. We were going to have it.
But they never got done with it?
They put it in the stupid Constitution like morons. In fact, that very constitutional issue was the one that was held up and used as the justification for increasing the threshold for modifying the Constitution to 60% instead of just 50%.
I thought it was just a pig thing.
The pig thing was used too, but the pig thing was used as an example. But the high speed, the pig thing didn't cost that much. I mean, it cost a lot, but it wasn't nearly the money they were talking about.
It was silly.
It was silly, but and it was certainly a silly thing to go in the Constitution. But the high speed rail thing absolutely had a lot of was a lot of money for something that that they were literally going to build and say, we'll build it, they'll come.
Right. Well, now in the state of Florida, to get anything on the ballot is nearly impossible almost. You actually, if you're a citizen, you have to have a very big bond. I think it's over $1 million bond. And the petition cards are increased a great amount. And so I think most of the stuff that's going to be on the ballot now is just going to be legislature controlled, because the legislature can just throw anything on the ballot. And so that means all the cronies who control them are going to be controlling all the ballots. And all the regular people who can't control anybody because they're broke, oh well, find a rich guy. Find a sugar daddy to help you.
I suppose. But like I said, it's
no answer.
I don't know what the answer is. I'm not a big fan. And on one hand, I really think that it should be hard to change the Constitution. I think, I'll tell you a constitutional amendment I would be in favor of, and that's that in order to put something in the Constitution, it can't be policy. It has to be like the framework within which the government works, not just some policy that that you can't get the legislature to, you're disappointed in the legislature, so you're going to do this instead. And because the real problem with that is that because the legislature knows that people can do that, controversial topics like medical marijuana, they just say no, knowing that the organizations will come and put it together and get it done. But then they didn't have to, go explain to their relative constituencies why they did that.
Well, the abortion issue as well. I mean,
whatever.
Yeah. And there's controversial things that people want to stay away from because it's a hot rail. So they just throw it to the organizations to let the people come up with it.
Although, in my mind, abortion is not a bad thing to do as an amendment because at least it speaks to rights.
Right.
And rights and the framework of government, I guess, are in my opinion, are the two things that ought to be included in government. This is what the rights that people absolutely have under the state, and these are the things that the government can absolutely do. Everything else should be a statute or an administrative rule.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's
Otherwise, you wind up with all kind of unintended consequences that literally take another constitutional amendment to fix.
Basically, we turn into California. Which California is ballots and ballots and ballot initiatives. And now, granted, as a consultant, I love ballot initiatives. They're wonderful.
God, as a
I mean,
consultant, it's
I mean, for our industry, we love it. However,
yeah.
being objective as we are, we also think that it's a very bad way to govern.
Right. Well, I mean, it's like in the early debates with Trump. Remember when Obama and Hillary Clinton were up there, and the question was, and Dave Chappelle made a great joke about this. Actually, I like Dave Chappelle's take on it more than anything else. When the question was that Trump has said that the system is rigged against the regular people, and Obama said the system's not rigged, and then Hillary agrees and says, no, the system's not rigged. They go back to him. He says, well, what do you think, Mr. Trump? And he says, I know the system is rigged because I use the system.
Exactly.
If you don't like the way I use it, change the system, and I'll use that system. But you're not going to do it because all of Mr. Obama and all of Miss Clinton's supporters use the system too, and they depend on it, so it's not going to get changed by them.
Exactly.
I'm the only one who can possibly change it.
I mean, his whole new bill was wrapped around the same concept. I mean, everybody needs to come to grips with the reality here that rich people know loopholes. That's why they have really good accountants, and that's just the way it is. I mean, the whole idea here is to lower the margins, to lower the rates, so more people pay. And quite looking for the loopholes, but you can't do that if you keep increasing it that high. They're going to look for ways to not have to pay that. And also at the same time, the more they pay in taxes, the less they pay in wages. I mean, in all reality, I mean, once you start taking something out of his pocket, he's not gonna pay his people anymore. I mean, guys, you don't really understand who you are screwing with. I mean, Sean Handy always says it really good. I never got paid by a poor guy. You get paid by people with money. Those are the ones who pay you. Let them keep their money so they can keep paying you.
Well, I don't know. I was listening to this thing the other day, and it was talking about how, they keep wearing out the top the top 1%, the top or top 10% or some crap.
The top 1%, 1%ers.
Yeah, the 1%, the 1%ers. And they don't pay their taxes. I hate to break your little heart.
Fair share.
Their fair share. All right. The top 10%, the top 10% of earners in America pay 76% of all taxes paid. The other 90% pay 10% or 25%. So 90% of the people pay 25%, and I'll guarantee you, once you get past that 50% mark, it goes way down.
Yeah, I had somebody argue with me about how come the poor people are not getting the same tax credit for their kids that the rich people are getting. I'm like, because the poor people aren't paying taxes. They're below the threshold to pay income tax. And so they don't get the same credit, but they get EIC, but they don't get the same tax credit per child because they don't make that much money per child.
Oh, hang on. Hang on. They make plenty, so they have, there's so many deductions that they essentially have almost no taxable income when they're done. And then they get an earned income credit.
Exactly.
Which gives, so just for the simplicity of math, if they paid $10,000 in taxes, or I'm sorry, if there were $10,000 worth of taxes that were supposed to be collected on their behalf, but their taxable income was too low. So let's say that they have a bill for, let's say they do have a $10,000 bill. If they've got a $15,000 tax credit, then they get $15,000 regardless of what their bill was. And when you turn the bill down to zero, they still get the $15,000.
Yeah, people don't get math.
So saying that the rich, people don't really talk. We should do a video on that. We should do some kind of video specifically on the apportionment of taxes paid by various income strata.
Should get a chartboard, like Ross Perot did, have a big pie chart.
Yeah, you see how that worked out for Ross.
Well, he gave the presidency to Bill, and so
exactly. Actually, I think Ross was on his way to winning until
he would have if he didn't go crazy.
Yeah, well, this is the real hallmark of the difference between business and politics. In politics, you're used to people throwing out stupid, saying stupid things and making idiotic threats and stuff like that, and threats against your family. And you just kind of look at them and go, whatever, dude, do your baddest. I got you too. So usually assured destruction. Ross Perot,
What happened? Did somebody threaten his daughter or something?
So it was something about his daughter.
Wedding?
Exposed something about his daughter. Or so, that was the story. Anyway.
It was a wedding or
who
something.
Who knows what it really was, but
I think it's something. Yeah, I think it's something about he felt like there was going to be an assassination attempt at her wedding, or something like that.
It was something.
Something about a wedding. I know something about his daughter's wedding somewhere, and they felt threatened or something. So that's the reason why he got out of the race to keep his family safe. But then he jumped back in the race because I guess he didn't give a damn about his family anymore, or he found out that there's a hope.
I think it became very clear that the threats that they were making to him were hollow.
If he would have stayed in the race, I think we'd have a whole different country right now.
Probably, but only, but if let's see,
we would not have had Lewinsky or Whitewater, all that fun stuff.
What's the deal with that? So at the time, he said, I don't want to disrupt the election. He claimed that he feared a disrupted election and that his candidacy could throw the race into the House. She viewed as a bad decision. Again, bad advice. Bush campaign sabotaging his daughter's wedding. Perot alleged the Republican operatives were planning to smear his daughter to ruin her wedding.
That's what it was. Okay.
Concerns about the economy. He later claimed he believed that the election should focus on healing the nation and that withdrawing him was in the national interest. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like what this sounds like to me is someone like a consultant, who makes their year-on-year daily living not by even the consultants that work on presidential campaigns. Well, they work on a bunch of congressional campaigns too, and if the congressional leadership and frankly all the congressmen get together and tell you that we're not going to be using you if you don't get this guy out of here,
right?
Well, then he can give them all kind of crazy advice.
Yeah, exactly. These guys just worry about money and the paycheck and everything else, which is a noble thing to worry about. But I mean, they kind of give advice skewing it.
Yeah, well, I mean, the right consultant can spin a hell of a yarn, and it literally sounds to me like something a consultant would say.
Yeah, because the mannerism of Ross Perot did not sound like he was going to run away.
No, but you got to realize that he's a fish out of water in this thing. This is not his world at all, and that was part of the appeal of Ross. Is that
exactly
that this sort of thing? That's not who he is.
That's the appeal of Trump.
The problem is that he also wasn't aware of the stupid crap that they did.
Exactly.
He was always sitting in the audience. He was never behind the stage.
Right.
Behind the stage and in the meeting rooms is where you see the ridiculous things that these people are capable of.
I think Trump actually supported Ross Perot.
Maybe.
Well, I mean, that was the Reform Party for people who are millennials and Generation Zers. I don't remember the Reform Party.
When was that even? It was 92
Reform Party,
or something like that?
That was 92. It was Ross Perot. Then Jesse, the wrestler Ventura, took on the Reform Party mantle in his governorship of Minnesota. Yeah. And that was funny. That was interesting. Yeah. That was good.
It was interesting.
It was good for Minnesota. They needed a wake-up call about it. Was better than Tim Walz, I'll tell you that. I take Jesse Ventura over Tim Walz any day.
Yeah, me too. At least Ventura, has something to respect him for.
And what about? I was going to bring this up. I forgot to talk about before the show. What about Fetterman, the surprise Democrat senator of Pennsylvania, who's actually supporting ICE and supporting Trump and supporting the immigration deal?
You know,
I like
I
that.
go, I do, I have, conflicting, feelings about him. Sometimes he is frankly one of the few guys up there on that hill that I think, believes every word that he's saying. And to that end, I have a fair amount of respect for the man. Even though I'll disagree with him on some things, at least I believe that he's not simply saying these things to benefit his fundraising.
I actually think he's much more of a moderate than he thinks this whole woke movement thing is just nuts. And I mean, he said the police need more funding, the EMS need more funding, everybody needs more funding. They do not need less. Public safety
I
should
agree.
be public safety.
How do you improve the quality of something by paying less for it? You know, if there was demonstrable levels of fraud or waste in the department, then absolutely cut you. I didn't even want them to cut it then. I want them to fire people and replace them with people who will effectively use the funding that they're getting.
Right. Exactly.
Because how can you have professional cops? Think about the life of a cop. All right, just about every day they go out and see the worst part of humanity, often people at their lowest moments.
Right.
And so it's something frankly the tragic things, going to the home and seeing the murdered children and things like that. There's no way that doesn't stick with you. People
Oh
in
yeah.
combat don't see things as bad as what cops see on a daily basis sometimes.
Right.
And so any department that's not heavily funded in proactive treatment, I don't mean just sitting on a couch with some stupid psychiatrist. I mean like getting these guys out involved in things that'll kind of help them work through their problems. And it's not always a psychiatrist. Yeah. So, I
Yeah.
mean, that's what a lot of that funding needs to go for. If we had that kind of thing, then we wouldn't have these things where cops are, have to rely on their ability to impose their will to feel like they're safe from whatever trauma that they have.
I mean, in all reality, you and I both have had a lot of experience in covering stories about police, and there are some police that do carry it too far. But a lot of it is because of the PTSD and all the stress that they are going under, not because they're just assholes. I mean, granted, you got some that were assholes, and that's the reason why they became cops. I mean, but sometimes those guys are actually some of the best cops. But the reality here is that, the funding needs to be for mental health with these guys to keep them stable because they're in a very high tense, high stress situation, and their life can be over at any minute, and for them to be like lays off air like a lot of these people want them to be doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, there are certain, you need all kinds of cops. You need cops that are smooth and great negotiators that can come in and instantly calm a system down.
Right.
You need cops that can come in there and dominate and take over, because sometimes that's what it takes. If you got some drug-addled guy that's out there throwing, out there to hurt people and stuff like that, then you got to have enough force. It's like in the army. You don't want to have a fair fight. You want to have an overwhelmingly one-sided fight.
Yes, exactly. And in the army, you want to win. There is no,
Yeah,
there's no
exactly.
tie.
Right, and that's what we want with cops. We want cops to be able when it's time to come in and just lay it down and control the situation, because sometimes that's the only way you're going to protect all the other people.
That's kind of like right now with the in Ukraine. I mean, they're getting a lot of support now from Trump with the drone attacks on Russia now, and so I mean, I think that kind of the same story goes with the military as well as like you just said. There is no tie and safety and everything else. You have to win, and Russia's not getting beaten back because they were pummeling Kyiv and everywhere else in the Ukraine with drones after drones after drones, and they were not paying attention. They kept telling Trump and everybody else they wanted a ceasefire, while at the same time they're bombing the crap out of Ukraine. That's not much of a ceasefire, or even the desire of one. Now Trump is finally funding Ukraine and getting behind it, and it's making a big difference.
Well, I think that what really got their attention was when he started, and not even the tariffs on Russia. I think honestly, the most effective thing that Donald Trump is going to do, I think he gave him like 60 days or something like that to come up with an agreement. But the thing that's going to really make that sing is the threat to impose tariffs on anyone doing business with him. Anyone
Right.
buying oil from Russia, if you're buying your oil from Russia, expect to get taxed when you come to America.
Right.
And basically what that's going to do is kill Russia's, it's intended to kill Russia's oil business, which,
Yeah.
They're on thin ice to begin with. Everything that they're doing, they're having to sell oil at a discount just to get the money in to do it.
Exactly.
So what part of that's effective? I think that's effective. But this is how Trump wants to do things. Trump doesn't want to go in, risking American lives and stuff like that. Bombing people from afar.
No.
Hey, no problem. But risking American troops, different
he's not going to
conversation.
put. I don't think he's going to do the kind of guerrilla war that Bush did, where he stuck them on the ground in Iran, Iraq, and Afghanistan. They were going door to door warfare. I don't think Trump was into that.
At the end of the day, it is the cliche, that freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. Right?
It is.
When you take everything away from all these people and you isolate them, and that's your plan for controlling them, is isolating them. Well, once you've taken everything away from them, what the hell are they going to do? They start slipping into the things that they've been doing, where they're trying to do this.
I think that takes us to our last topic of the night, which is alligator Alcatraz. Because just like what you said, I mean, but you and I were talking earlier today about, my frustration is that we have a lot of these legal citizens down there. And I actually agree with you too, on the flip side of it. Now, I'm not sympathetic to all these the illegal ones, the proper ones who are down there who got mixed in with it. The problem is that you shouldn't hang out with that crowd. I mean, because, ICE comes in a swarm, and they swarm and they just get everybody. They don't pick. They're not asking for IDs or anything like that. They're picking up everybody in the damn room.
I'll tell you what I've noticed is that that if you do see someone who's alleged to have been picked up, that actually is supposed to be here, you see them for a brief second, and then you never hear about them again. And I'm like, right now I couldn't tell you the name of a single one, which makes me and the breathless way that they presented it, it makes me really concerned about, is it really true? Because very often when they speak like that, the way that they're presenting that, it's not true. It's the sound of a lie.
But CBS.
Well, CBS said, "Oh wow, okay."
CBS has a news story with all these numerous legal, wonderful citizens who were down there. Unfortunately, who were just got coddled up in the raids. And when you're a flea, you hang around. It's the dog with fleas story here. I mean, you just pick a different crowd to hang out with, guys. Quit picking. Don't hang out with guys who are going to be picked up.
I mean, isn't CBS the same legendary news organization that presented as factual evidence that George Bush, there was something wrong with his National Guard deployment, and they had proof of it because they had a letter written by his commander at the time?
Technically, that was Dan Rather.
It was clearly written on a word processor, because there was like a first or 1ST, the first, back during a time when all they had were typewriters when this letter was done, and this has one and then superscript ST. There was not a typewriter on the planet that did that. Certainly not one that the military owned.
Yeah.
Because the military wouldn't pay for one just because it said, "Ooh, special function." Upper script.
You're exactly correct. But that technically wasn't really CBS's fault. That was more Dan Rather and a producer.
Whatever. And
he got fired.
Good. He got fired because he got caught, not because he ran the
Well,
story.
I mean, CBS is also the people that are getting rid of the Saturday night, the nighttime guy, Colbert.
There.
And I mean, they have a lot of issues on credibility, and so whenever they start telling people, and people keep telling me, I got this story from CBS, I'm like, I don't give a damn. I don't care.
Okay.
I mean,
CBS, CNN, NPR. Oh my God, I'm so happy to see them see their funding go away.
well, yes,
Because
$9
here's
billion.
what people don't understand. Here's what people don't understand about them, because it's always, the CEO of NPR is saying that by cutting that funding, we're risking American lives. American lives depend on the Corporation for Public
That's
Broadcasting.
the
You
narrative,
people
baby.
are out of your rabbit minds. And here's the thing that no one understands. Between 90 and 99% of their budget comes from outside donations. The federal government gives them between 1 and 10% of their actual budget. Let's say that it's 10%. Let's say the federal government gives them 10% of their budget. Do you honestly think that that cutting that 10% away from them is going to sink the entire program? No.
No.
But they will make you think that they are going to die a horrific death if they don't get that, because obviously it's a government thing and the government gives them all the money.
Well, it's the same thing with
And
Planned Parenthood. It's the same issue with Planned Parenthood. Whenever they start saying they're going to cut funding to Planned Parenthood because they are enacting abortions and everything else, and paying for abortions, and basically, if the Planned Parenthood chapter would like to have funding, just stop doing abortions. Then you can get funding. And so whenever they start saying, "Oh, people are going to die. People are going to die," I'm like, "No, just quit killing babies. Get your funding. People will actually live. People will live and be born, and live and be born and live if you keep your funding. Your funding actually is eliminating people, not
the
adding
funny
to
part
them."
about that is they say that it's their that they perform all sorts of other services there.
And they
I'm
do.
like, no, they don't. They refer people out. They do not do any of that stuff on
Well, maybe
television.
they should.
They should, but they don't, because it's not their business. Their business is aborting babies.
Exactly.
All right. All the mammograms and all the stuff that they do, they'll give you a referral. But you know where else you can get that referral? At the county health department. The exact same thing for the exact same price.
Oh, you mean that Planned Parenthood might be duplicating services with the county health?
What I mean is that they're lying their tails off about about the services they do perform, because there are numerous videos of people getting on the phone on camera and calling calling Planned Parenthood and asking them, what do you perform? Do you perform mammograms? No.
Right.
Do you perform like half a dozen other the screening tests that they say they perform? You perform these things at this location? No.
I mean, there's also numerous undercover videos that have been published over the years about the people at Planned Parenthood basically selling baby parts on the black market. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
it's recorded, it's documented, it's been admitted to, it's every part of that, and yet they still get federal funding when they're selling things on the black market.
Yeah. Well,
Human body
they admit
parts.
to it. Then they swear. Then they get contacted by some regulatory agent who says, "Okay, you got to promise not to do that anymore." And they say, "Okay, well, we promise."
Or they plead the fifth.
Or they plead the fifth.
Kind of like Biden's
But
doctor.
they always wind up doing it again.
Kind of like Biden's doctor. Yeah, Joe Biden's doctor who's pleading the fifth on every single thing. I agree. I get it. There's some confidentiality there, but
That let me tell you, that's gonna be interesting, because they can override that kind of confidentiality for this.
and what about the whole thing with the auto pen? With the auto pen for the with the pardons.
Well, that's a very interesting thing, because there's an email about that. Apparently Joe had a meeting about the criteria that he was going to have for the for these pardons, and then he let the staff go and go with it, right? And then there's an email exchange where the person who actually, you know, approved the thing going on to the auto pen, who was a staff member, she said, "Yeah, I've reviewed it. It's good. We can put that on the auto pen." All right. There was. I don't care if Joe Biden in the meeting told them, "Go ahead and do this with the auto pen." It is his obligation to see the final version, because when they had that meeting, they hadn't made all the changes yet. They hadn't made
Right.
all, they hadn't created the documents. They hadn't officially decided who all they were going to pardon. But until the actual final version of the document is created, you can't make some argument that the president, can sign it, because he cannot delegate his authority to approve certain things, and that's one of.
Now, I guess I read somewhere that legally you can use the auto pen, but you basically have to prove that he wasn't, that somebody else is doing it. And so, somebody, I guess somebody has to fess up to saying that they were the ones who did it instead of him. I do not know if that's going to happen or not.
Well, the case the item I was just talking about actually is the physical, the proof,
Okay.
and that was the pardons they were talking about in that email included the pardons for Anthony Fauci and Mark Milley.
I wonder if his son was pardoned by himself or somebody else.
I don't know. To be honest with you, you're probably never going to know that. I don't know. I mean, we haven't seen all of the emails.
Yeah.
And they will be able to subpoena those. Well, actually, they don't have to subpoena them because Trump can release them.
Yeah, because I doubt they did the Hillary Clinton thing. I doubt they bleached them or anything, or destroyed the hard
Oh, they
drives.
can't. No, 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 no. Hillary could do that. And see, this is the reason why her having a personal server at her home was a bad thing, is because
Oh, wait.
she could delete anything, and there was records that she is legally obligated to maintain, because
Right.
they are presidential records, or they do have to do it, because she was Secretary of State, and Secretary of State is subject to Presidential Records Act.
Exactly.
So, so she could have, but she could have destroyed anything that she wanted to. You're supposed to have those things in the custody of someone who is going to protect it, and that includes protect it from her.
Why is it always the Democrats who just keep on screwing around with emails and everything? Republicans don't do that.
Well, I don't know that they don't, but it's I know for a fact that she did.
Oh, yeah.
Whether or not Republicans have, you show me a Republican that did the same thing, I'll wear them out too.
Exactly. But like you said, I mean, it's the same reason why Trump's name is everywhere. Because if Republicans had done it, it'd be everywhere. Because media would have
Well, I
followed
mean,
it.
people always say that. Sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not. But regardless, you show it to me, and I will stand right there with
Yeah.
you and cheer for their punishment.
Exactly. Like Matt, you and I were both talking about Matt Gaetz for years.
Yeah, I mean, Matt Gaetz is a very popular figure in a lot of the Republican Party, but we know the truth about him, and I mean, don't hesitate to share that truth.
Yeah. Well, it's been an interesting week, but I think that's gonna close it up here for tonight here.
Get the places any to call it tonight.
But you guys have a good week here, and please subscribe to our channel. Please like us. Please follow us. Share us.
Please like me. You got to really, really like me.
Yeah, because right now the algorithm is actually working toward us. It's actually helping us a little bit on X. And so
Wait, we're saying something popular. How the hell that happened?
I don't know. But YouTube, we're picking up a little bit more traffic on YouTube and everything. So the algorithms are working, for us a little bit. And so that's good. But we still have some people who are blindly being disappeared. And they ask me how come I'm not a subscriber anymore. And they have no idea how they got disappeared. And so they come back. So
I don't know. I know. I would. We should put contact information for these platforms so they know how to get a hold of the people they can complain to.
yeah, we should do that.
The problem with that is, I think that they don't. That they just don't care.
I don't think they do.
I don't think they do. hopefully someone will come up with a platform at some point that's not, it's specially engineered to support a particular point of view.
Yeah, choose social.
Well, I'd like to say that's not engineered for a point of view, but it certainly is dominated by a point of view. Whether it's engineered that way or not, I can't say.
That's very true. I do think EXO is the closest thing to it.
I'm having a good experience with X right now. So tomorrow's a different day, but who knows?
Exactly.
For right now, I think they're fine.
Yeah. Well, good night, Scott.
All right, folks. We'll see you.